This is the Unawarded Black Podcast with your host, Jay Watts. While you're watching the video, comment, like, and subscribe. Unawarded Black Podcast, back at you. Sorry for the audio if it's bad. Just say I'm unprepared. But let's get into Ahmuad Arbery case. This is a big case update to deal with Ahmuad and prosecutor Jackie Johnson. As you know, she was indicted for protecting the suspects. But let's get into it. Got some videos, so watch videos, and then there's a little more to it afterwards.
A former Georgia district attorney now formally facing charges for how she handled the investigation surrounding the deadly shooting of Ahmuad Arbery in Brunswick. Jackie Johnson is now charged after allegedly showing favor and affection to Greg McMichael, one of the men accused of murder in Arbery's death.
Georgia's Attorney General announced the indictment today, accusing former prosecutor Jackie Johnson of obstruction and violating her oath of office. There are only 3 pages to this form filed in Glynn County Superior Court and released today. Jackie Johnson was strongly criticized over how she handled the killing of Ahmuad Arbery. The 25-year-old was shot to death while jogging near Brunswick about a year and a half ago.
When I received the news, I was at work. I was very overjoyed because this is a step closer to justice for Ahmuad. It's not a conviction, but an indictment is going in the right direction.
Arbery's family called for justice in the weeks after the killing, and eventually these 3 men were arrested and charged. But the indictment says Johnson, quote, showed favor and affection to Greg McMichael during the investigation. Now, that's what the indictment calls violation of oath. McMichael had previously worked for the Johnsons' office.
So in that time, weeks and weeks go by and you're waiting. Did your family feel like there was a cover-up going on?
His mom felt like something wasn't right. My brother did as well.
I just knew something wasn't right with that because they should have been arrested, because if it was someone else, they would have been arrested the same day and they would have been a court hearing and everything for them. But it always worked out on time. And I just thank God that she has been indicted and waiting for the next steps of conviction.
Gregory and Travis McMichael, a father and son, and their neighbor, William Roddy Bryan Jr., they are all awaiting trial this fall. They chased and killed 25-year-old Arbery last year as he ran in their neighborhood outside coastal Brunswick. Jury selection is scheduled to start October 18th.
But I always say God works in mysterious ways, and he's always on time. And he was on time because it's right before trial in October. So it's just been a very, very emotional, but a great day for me and the family.
Attorney General Chris Carr says in a statement, our office is committed to ensuring those who are entrusted to serve are carrying out their duties ethically and honestly. While an indictment was returned today, our file is not closed, and we will continue to investigate in order to pursue justice. Attorneys for Ahmuad Arbery say the indictment of former prosecutor Jackie Johnson is another step in the right direction.
Former DA Johnson may not have pulled the trigger on the day Ahmuad was murdered, but she played a starring role in the cover-up.
Johnson is accused of using her position to shield the men who chased and killed Arbery.
Greg and Travis McMichael and a third man, William Bryan, remained free for more than 2 months until cell phone video of the shooting was leaked online. News4Jax reporter Marilyn Parker is joining us live from the Glynn County Courthouse. And Marilyn, do we know where Johnson is?
No, not right now. We've been checking the surrounding county sheriff's office, the attorney general, and we also asked the Glynn County clerk of court, but they have not set or scheduled a first appearance for her yet. We know at some point she's going to have to turn herself in. The attorneys for Ahmuad Arbery's family today said they want her to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. It's a charge they stand behind.
The entire indictment is very, very important. The wording where they stated they didn't treat us with dignity. And that really said a lot because they didn't.
Ahmuad Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, says she's grateful former prosecutor Jackie Johnson is being held accountable for her role in her son's case. An indictment handed down Thursday accuses Johnson of showing favor and affection to Gregory McMichael, her former employee, during the investigation into Arbery's murder. It accuses Johnson of failing to treat Arbery's family fairly and with dignity. The indictment also says Johnson hindered Glenn County officers of their duties by directing that Travis McMichael should not be arrested.
And when Jackie Johnson violated that responsibility to the Arbery family, she violated that for all Black people in her region. The idea that a man could be running in the middle of the day on a Sunday in broad daylight, be shot to death, and that the prosecutor for the region would instruct law enforcement not to make an arrest is particularly offensive to this family.
Officers Stephanie Oliver and Stephen Lowry are listed as witnesses in the indictment, along with Waycross Judicial Circuit DA George Barnhill. After she recused herself, Johnson requested that Barnhill oversee the case. Barnhill said he didn't see any grounds for arrest of any individuals involved in Arbery's death. In February, Arbery's mother told News4Jax she pushed for Barnhill to be removed from the case after learning his son worked on Johnson's staff. Shortly after, Barnhill recused himself from the case as well.
Everybody that had their hand on his death need to be brought to justice.
Attorneys expect Barnhill to eventually be indicted as well. Coming up tonight at 6, you can hear from the Arbery family attorneys on how they think this indictment will impact Arbery's case against the McMichaels. We're live in Glenn County, Maryland. Parker, Channel 4, the local station.
So our picture here, the three thugs, McMichael and Brian. The thing is, she was charged because there wasn't no way around it. There's no way you can look at this video and say, no, you didn't do nothing. You didn't do nothing at all. Turns out she was protecting him. And then she passed it out to George Barnhill, which, oh, I saw the video, but they ain't do nothing. You know, they was protecting themselves. You protecting yourself in the middle of the street. What sense does that make? Okay, if they had to just stop their car and just let him continue to go about his business, he would be alive, and all three of them would still not be in jail. Okay, so let's get back to the reason why these three are up here. Well, it turns out that one of the things that their defense attorney was trying to do was use Ahmuad's past against him. And this comes from Atlanta Black Star. It says that the judge has ruled that it is not relevant in this case. His past legal troubles have nothing to do with this case. Because once again, you can't present something against somebody who was trying to get away. How do they know his legal standing, what he did in the past? But it says trial judge Timothy, well, I'm gonna mess up on this. Wamsey wrote that presenting evidence on Ahmuad Arbery's legal trouble could lead the jury to believe that although Arbery did not apparently commit any felony that day, he may pose future dangerousness and that he would eventually commit more alleged crimes, and therefore the defendant's actions were somehow justified. Pretty cut and dry. That just leads you to show what kind of case they were gonna try to run. And that case was to say, well, he did this in the past, so he was gonna do it, and we was protecting ourselves, which wasn't true. I mean, there's no way they could have known about his legal past before. Well, they could not have known his legal past before what happened. They just saw a black guy. They just wanted to chase him down the street. They was going to arrest, I guess, citizen arrest him. I don't know. They just felt like, hey, this black man see us with a gun. He just going to stop. I mean, all you can tell from this video, from the original video, was he was just trying to get away. And if trying to get away enough, then they should be in jail. He was within his rights to try to defend himself. He knew what was going to happen. And now a little bit on Prosecutor Jackie Johnson. And before I show this, I'm just going to harken back, and I hate to bring up Bill Cosby case. But in Bill Cosby case, Bill Cosby testified under oath in a civil trial, and this testimony was used against him in a civil trial, which was totally illegal. Okay? Which makes it important to why people vote. When you vote on district attorney, it means a lot to the kind of trials you get in your state, or the kind of prosecutions that you get, or non-prosecutions that you get. And I'm saying that because I have another video about Jackie Johnson. Yeah, let's get into it.
The News4 Jax I-Team has been looking into Johnson's track record as the district attorney for 5 counties. She was their top prosecutor for a decade. I-Team investigator Vic Micolucci shows us how other attorneys have raised red flags long before the Arbery homicide.
Jackie Johnson got international attention as the top prosecutor for the Ahmuad Arbery case. But she had been the district attorney in Southeast Georgia since 2010, when the governor of Georgia appointed her. During her 10 years in office, she was in charge of several high-profile cases, including some that are controversial. This cell phone video showing the shooting death of Ahmuad Arbery caused outrage, coming out 2 months after Glynn County Police and then District Attorney Jackie Johnson decided to not charge the 3 men who chased him down. That ended up putting other cases she worked under the microscope. This 2010 video shows 2 Glynn County police officers shooting and killing Caroline Small after she led them on a chase. Cops had her car pinned and she was unarmed when they fired. Johnson presented the officer-involved shootings to a grand jury, but defense attorney Bill Adkins told the I-Team she made several legal missteps. Johnson provided the officers' defense attorneys with evidence before she presented it to a grand jury. Johnson went before the grand jury without presenting an indictment, and she allowed defense attorneys to participate in the grand jury hearing by asking questions. No charges were filed against the officers.
She violated that plainly, unequivocally, and there was no consequence other than the fact that 2 men went free.
One of the officers, Corey Sasser, would later become a fugitive on domestic abuse charges. And in 2018, he killed his estranged wife and another man before turning the gun on himself. Another lawyer who questioned Johnson's legal practices was the district's former chief public defender, Kevin Goff, who says there were violations long before the Arbery case.
What about the thousands of other people who have been run through the criminal justice system and the tens of thousands across the state? What's being done to make sure that these kinds of problems don't happen again?
So are you saying that you feel, in your opinion, that some defendants did not get a fair trial when Jackie Johnson was district attorney?
I have no doubt that defendants did not get a fair trial. I have no doubt that people that were innocent under the law went to jail. And, the sad thing is trying to figure out who they are is difficult.
The two sparred frequently in court. Goff was the court-appointed defense in the 2013 case where 2 teens killed 13-month-old Antonio Santiago while his mother was pushing him in a stroller. Goff says Johnson's indictment shows his complaints for years had merit, especially since the former police chief was also indicted in a subsequent corruption case.
I think that's a pretty damning indictment of the way law enforcement has been operating in Glynn County for some time. So, it's troubling, and I'm sure the community is troubled by it.
Johnson blamed the controversy over Arbery's death for her election defeat last year. Independent candidate Keith Higgins collected thousands of signatures to get on the ballot and won. He's now the district attorney. I'm Vic Micolucci, Channel 4, the local station.
Thank you, Vic. Our coverage continues right now on news4jax.com.
Okay, so from that video, you see here, she was the district attorney for 5 counties, and even in, like I said, this case they showed, They provided attorneys with evidence before going to the grand jury. They went before the grand jury without presenting an indictment. And last but not least, she allowed attorneys to ask questions in the grand jury hearing, which was all illegal, but nobody said anything about it. So, like I said, she can do this to a white woman. And even worse than that is, at least she had a grand jury hearing, even though she didn't present an indictment. She just pretty much brought him in just to say we don't charge him with nothing, just to show. And like I said, it was for a white woman, and she had one for them. She didn't even have anything for Ahmuad Arbery. She just said, y'all good, y'all go home. I got this. So people started to speak up. And because of people speaking up in there, videos came out. She sent the case off. And now she is indicted. So that's where we at now. I had to talk with a friend, and she said, well, I don't really care about, this because of, family and the people we've been around. But you know what? I say this. Cases like this mean a lot. When cases like this come up, you see the people that are prosecuting these cases and bringing these cases up and what they are capable of doing. If this lady would have continued to be district attorney, it would have been plenty of cases she just passed over. Which means, like I said, they have to go back on all of her cases and find out what the hell she was doing. They have to, because this cannot be allowed to continue to happen. And it happens all around the country. Like I said before, with Bill Cosby, he had the money to go to the state Supreme Court. He had the money to keep pushing the case forward and forward and forward and forward. I ain't got that kind of money, and I'm pretty sure plenty of y'all ain't got it. I ain't no multi-millionaire. I'm working. I'm worse. This has been an Unawarded Black Podcast with your host, Jay Watts. Keep it black, keep it real, and we'll be back with you next time.